AEW All Out 2025 and WWE Wrestlepalooza are in the books. Welcome to your AEW All Out and WWE Wrestlepalooza double show review. Pretty fun Saturday of wrestling here as these two shows basically came to us back to back with All Out bleeding 1 hour into Wrestlepalooza, as we basically had Hangman Page and Kyle Fletcher going head to head with John Cena and Brock Lesnar. So as I get set up here in the chat, I want you guys to let me know in the chat there what you would grade both shows, which show you thought was better, and what the best matches of the night to you were. The only match I think on All Out, the only match on Wrestlepalooza, to me personally as a fan that's really going to stand out is Stephanie Vaquer and Io Sky, which I just thought was tremendous. I thought we had a little bit better in-ring action and product from All Out. But both shows pretty much met my expectations, but I wouldn't say either show exceeded them. But I still thought they were good. Like what I was expecting tonight out of Wrestlepalooza, I didn't think they were going to do anything super crazy because this is their first show on ESPN, and as we talked about in the predictions, I thought there was a pretty good chance that they could treat tonight's show as basically like a commercial or an advertisement to a lot of new ESPN eyeballs. Even my dad popped into the YouTube chat tonight because he probably gets the new ESPN app with their cable service, and he probably stumbled across Wrestlepalooza, and he had some questions for us. So there's a lot of people that might not normally watch these WWE PLEs who are getting a chance to check them out due to the ESPN coverage of it. So, with that, it kind of felt like what they did at first was Saturday night's main event. Oh, we're on NBC. This is going to be a showcase of our product. Hey, look at all of our superstars. Check out these lasers, and our world-class production team and, our crazy, flashy, overproduced, seizure-inducing, product that we have. This is it. This is what we do. So in terms of us seeing anything real crazy that, wrestling fans like us who follow the product from top to bottom, seeing anything like that on Wrestlepalooza, I really just didn't see that as a possibility. I didn't want to see The Rock come back or anything like that. And in terms of what we got on Wrestlepalooza, it was, pretty much exactly what my expectations thought it was going to be. Mixed tag was just what I thought it would be. So was kind of the main event. So was everything, to be honest. So it pretty much met my expectations. It's going to be hard to judge these shows in terms of which show was better because I think the criteria is all over the place. If you ask me as a wrestling fan who watched both shows, I think All Out was better. But Wrestlepalooza is at a disadvantage because there's only 5 matches. And it's a WWE, one of their 5-match cards. It's not like it was a WrestleMania or a SummerSlam or something else that might have a few more matches to match up with All Out. In terms of what's going to dominate the headlines, I'm sure WWE will, but the in-ring product, the only real standout match that we got on Wrestlepalooza was Stephanie Vaquer and Io Sky. All the other stuff was pretty much on All Out, and last night's CMLL 92nd anniversary show that had that great Mystico and MJF match on it, among other matches. So it's hard to really gauge it. So I guess it's just going to be a matter of opinion, really. Like, which show did you enjoy better? And when I watched All Out, I ordered it on Max, so I got the big $10 discount. So I got my $40 worth of wrestling. That was definitely $40 worth of wrestling. 14 matches if you include the tailgate brawl, where there was only 5 here at Wrestlepalooza. But if you're a wrestling fan and you're somebody that doesn't get all caught up in the tribal bullshit and all the other nonsense that exists out there, and you just like wrestling, this was a pretty good day for us. We had 2 great shows back to back that kind of bled into each other. I feel, I think it's cool that we had a chance to go fully head to head here with pay-per-views until it was moved. But, when it was Hangman Page and Fletcher going up against Brock and Cena, I really wanted my full attention to be on both matches. So I kind of had to watch one on mute and have one here. If I wasn't doing a live stream, I don't know what I'd do. I'd probably just watch one and watch the other one later. So I didn't really like that fans kind of had to force to choose here, especially with pretty, big matches, title match, main event in AEW, and one of John Cena's final matches ever against one of his longtime 20-plus year rivals in Brock Lesnar. You're forcing the fans to pick, and I think that's kind of shitty. I don't like this counter-programming stuff, but it was kind of cool that we did, really for the first time ever there, have two pay-per-views going head-to-head, because I think AEW ended up running basically exactly 5 hours for All Out, which was an hour into Wrestlepalooza. So they could have gone an hour later on Wrestlepalooza, and then you could just do them one after the other, but they did overlap just a little bit here. So in terms of what we saw from both shows, like I said, me personally, they met my expectations. So I'm going to go to sleep tonight as a pretty happy wrestling fan. Not too many complaints about anything I saw from either show, because when I envisioned in my head what we would get out of these shows, because to be honest, All Out wasn't really generating a whole lot of interest either. I don't know how great their buy rate is going to be for that. And a lot of fans were saying, yeah, the card is good, but it's not great. Maybe it's a little bit underwhelming. Maybe some fans are a little bit less interested in this pay-per-view from AEW than they have in the past, and I think a lot of fans felt the same way about Wrestlepalooza. So, when I look at that and I look at the hype and the interest going into these shows, and then look at what these shows gave us tonight and what I expected from them, pretty much matched it. So, therefore, I'm not going to have too many complaints about either show, because I got what I expected out of both. Would have been nice to have maybe a little bit more, but overall, I thought everything was fine. So let me know in the chat. We'll be over here going through all of it here, and we're going to start with Wrestlepalooza, and then we'll backtrack and start hitting the results of AEW All Out. If anybody's got their eye on WWE's post-show, let us know if anything interesting happens there, but I doubt it. We got some 7 out of 10, 6.5s. All Out was a B+. Wrestlepalooza was a C. Okay, I can probably agree with that. Shane Stephanie was given the first Hall of Fame spot in 2026. I don't think it's that weird, and we're going to talk about the Stephanie McMahon stuff here in just a bit. Are we getting an authority revival? Let's hope we don't. I don't think we need one. We got Nick Aldis and we have Adam Pearce. What do you need any other yahoos for? You know what I mean? All right. Well, let's start, I guess. Let's start running through the show here. By the way, welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to everyone who was here for the watch along, as I didn't want to watch both pay-per-views because I'm here on the West Coast, of course, and for me, here in California, All Out started at noon. The pre-show started at like 10. So I'm not really camera ready that early for me. So I decided to watch All Out, and then we did a watch along for Wrestlepalooza, and now we're here to watch both. And it's kind of a sad day, as I have been in this wonderful house now for the past 5 years. And this is going to be the last video, the last live stream with this background behind me. Tonight, it's going to all start coming down. Now, tomorrow, we are going to be back here because I thought I was going to make myself available for work, but I don't think I'm going to need to go in. So I'm going to be home tomorrow night. We might as well do one final stream because we always do classic watch-alongs on Sunday nights. So tomorrow night, we are going to watch ECW Wrestlepalooza 1998. We'll be live at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific tomorrow night for the final ever live stream in this house, but it is going to look a little bit different because tonight I'm going to start breaking this stuff down because I move on Tuesday morning. So this has all got to come down and get put away, and I'm going to start working on that tonight. So tomorrow, when we do the live stream, nothing's going to be behind me. I might even change up the camera angle. We'll see what we do tomorrow. It's going to be one final video in this apartment, or I'm sorry, in this house before I move into a smaller place. Now, I have a very busy week next week as well because we're moving out of here. Plus, we have to clean this place, get it ready. Elizabeth is very busy. She's finishing her 20-plus year career at the casino tonight, and she starts a new job in a couple of weeks. So we're moving. She's starting a new job, and I think what the plan, unfortunately, is probably going to be is that I'm going to have to take a full week off of YouTube. So after tomorrow night's watch-along, be prepared to not see me for a week because there's a lot going on. I got to move. I got to unpack. I got to clean this place. Lots going on. So just going to have to take a week off, and I'm sorry for that. But I will keep you guys updated. I'll hit you with some shorts, show you some photos of the new YouTube space that I'm going to have, which is going to be much smaller, much more condensed. But I have really good plans drawn up for it. I'm really happy for how I'm going to set it up, or with how I'm going to set it up and how it's going to look in the new place. So just keep that in mind going forward. And I want to thank all of you for a great 5 years. It's been wonderful in this house, being able to stream on YouTube. I'm actually in the master bedroom of a 5-bedroom home. Elizabeth insisted on this when we moved in, that I make this my YouTube studio. It's way too much space than I need. I put up a video a couple of years ago of me building out this space and, turning it into my kind of like man cave, but it's way too big. This is too much space for me. Those belts are 20 feet fucking back there. I don't need all the space. So I'm going to be in a much smaller, tighter type of corner, but it's really going to look good. I've got plans drawn up. I bought a shitload of stuff on Amazon that's sitting out in the hallway waiting for me in the new place for me to unpack, and it's going to be good. So anyway, I want to thank you guys all for the last 5 fun years in this house, hanging out with me, watching wrestling, doing podcasts, talking about things, having Tito sitting back here in the background and all of that. It's been a lot of fun, and I just want to thank you because it's a little end of an era. We've been in here for a half a decade. So we got to downsize. We don't have the need for 5 bedrooms anymore, so we're going to go into a smaller place and save a shitload of money on rent, and I'm going to have a smaller YouTube background. So anyway, tonight will be it. This is it. Tomorrow night we will be back, but all this shit behind me is going to be broken down, and we're going to be under construction. So just wanted to thank you guys for that and make you aware of what our plans are for the rest of the weekend and the week off that I'm going to be taking starting on Monday. There you go. Now we can get into the Wrestlepalooza results. For AEW, I've got individual photos for these matches, but since we just watched the PPV or the PLE, I didn't have time to do any of that for Wrestlepalooza, so please bear with me. And we will open up with the opening match, which was pre-announced, I think, yesterday, is when we had heard that Brock Lesnar and John Cena would be opening Wrestlepalooza, and that was, in fact, the case. Brock Lesnar came out with, who was out first, Cena or Brock? I think it was Brock. Brock was out first, and he absolutely looked massive. I could be wrong about that. It might have been Cena out first. I don't remember. But anyway, we're going to talk about Brock first. He came back looking bigger than he was before. Just unbelievably wide and massive and scary. Brock Lesnar probably walks around backstage completely fearless, even if somebody did have a problem with him being back in the company. Are you going to approach him and talk to him about that? So Brock is, he's untouchable backstage, so he comes out looking like $1 million. John Cena has a really great entrance. He had to have no less than 50 little kids coming out with him, all dressed in yellow, big, bright yellow, lots of yellow. They came out. John Cena had that fun entrance. And then they surprised us during the introductions after, I guess, Alicia Taylor had introduced John Cena. Paul Heyman shows up out of nowhere, hops on the apron, and does the Brock Lesnar entrance. Now, I didn't watch any of SmackDown last night. Apparently, the two had some sort of an interaction. Heyman and Brock spoke, I guess, on SmackDown last night, which I didn't see. I'm sorry, I was lazy. I didn't have a podcast to do today, so why am I going to watch the show? So I just decided when I got home from work last night to not watch the show, to do something else. So I have no idea what happened there, but apparently maybe that's what was worked out. Brock just asked Heyman if he'd show up and do him a solid and do his introduction, because I don't believe Paul Heyman stayed out there for the rest of the match. Once he did Brock Lesnar's introduction, he left. So it was just Brock Lesnar and John Cena one-on-one. Not much of a match here. I dare say this was a bigger squash than the SummerSlam 2014 match. Would you agree? John Cena had some offense in that match just like he did here. He even hit Brock Lesnar with a trifecta of AAs, only for Brock to kick out, and then immediately turned the tables and hit John Cena with an F5. He then hit him with another one, and in total, he hit him with, I believe, 6 F5s, covered John Cena, got the 1, 2, 3, won the match easily, and then came back to the ring, F5 the referee, and hit John Cena with another one. So I believe he got hit with anywhere from 7 to 8 to maybe even 9. I think it was 7, though, F5s. And Brock Lesnar absolutely destroyed John Cena. Now, in my predictions for the entire day, I did horribly. Luckily on Wrestlepalooza, I only got I got 2 matches wrong here too. I got 2 matches wrong on Wrestlepalooza and 5 out of the 10 main card matches on All Out wrong. So I think we predicted 18 matches and I got 7 of them wrong. That's not good. That's 11 right, 7 wrong. Not good for Greg. One of my worst performances ever. But I just thought that maybe Cena would win. I wasn't very confident about saying that because, like, why would Cena beat Brock Lesnar? But I also had in my head that there was a possibility that they're going to have to do a rematch or something. And I've talked about that a lot since Thursday when we did our predictions. One thing that's troubling me is that John Cena is advertised for Crown Jewel, but John Cena is not advertised for any more TVs until November. So he's not going to be on TV, at least I don't think, unless I have this wrong. Correct me if I do. So John Cena is not going to be on TV between now and Crown Jewel, but he's advertised for Crown Jewel. So what the fuck is he going to do? The only thing he would be able to do is a Brock Lesnar rematch. But based on the way that match went, why would they do one? Why would they even do a Brock Lesnar rematch? But what would Cena do? Maybe he's just advertised to be there and, Crown Jewel is actually where I would do the AJ Styles match. I really want AJ Styles to be John Cena's final opponent. I think that would be great for Saturday night's main event, but I kind of think it might be Gunther. And I want them to do a retirement gimmick thing with Gunther where he retires Goldberg, then retires John Cena, then goes into WrestleMania to retire AJ Styles. Then later on, he retires Sheamus. And then maybe one day he retires Brock Lesnar. And Gunther is the man that puts people down. Like the Legend Killer gimmick, only it's retirements. Do that for Gunther. But if John Cena's advertised for Crown Jewel and we don't know what he's going to do, maybe he just comes out to the ring and does an open challenge and it's answered by AJ Styles. Maybe like we don't know we're going to get Cena and AJ until that day. That might be kind of fun, but I don't know what you're going to do with Cena. I'm surprised he's even advertised for Crown Jewel. If John Cena has only 5 dates left, why is he going to Australia? It's not like they did a ton of events there. They did a couple, but it's not like John Cena's got some long-standing history in some of these Australian cities. No, fuck Australia. Sorry to our Australian friends. No offense. But I would save it for a different show or something. So the fact that he's advertised for that feels weird. And tonight, Michael Cole said that, or at least according to you guys in the chat, Michael Cole said that at Crown Jewel, those stupid Crown Jewel championships are going to be defended again, which means after the Cody Rhodes victory here, we're getting Cody and Seth one-on-one at Crown Jewel, and Seth is going to win that match. He's going to win that match, and he's going to win that big-ass green belt, and he's finally going to get that victory back from Cody from when he put him over 3 times when Cody came back. And it's probably going to be Tiffany Stratton versus Stephanie Vaquer, unless Tiffany drops her title this Friday on SmackDown in the Triple Threat. So we've got the Crown Jewel Championships on the line, so those matches are kind of set. So John Cena's not going to be in a title match or anything like that, so what is he going to do? And if he already got killed by Brock, I don't think Brock is the type of guy that wants to sit on a plane for 22 hours. So I'd be surprised if Brock Lesnar is at Crown Jewel. But they're going to have to set something up off of TV, which means something on the post show right now that's going on, or maybe some video from John Cena on social media where he challenges Brock Lesnar or somebody else to a match, and then they just agree and boom, bada bing, bada boom, there's your match. I don't know what they're going to do. So sound off in the chat with your ideas of what John Cena could do, since apparently he's advertised for Crown Jewel, but he's not going to be on TV. Are you just going to throw a match out there at us? That might be what they do. They might just do that. Here's John Cena versus AJ Styles for funsies. That might happen. But in terms of tonight, one final, it appears, unless they do a rematch, it appears that this was one final match between Brock Lesnar and John Cena, and Brock put John Cena down once and for all, and John Cena left the ring, and that was kind of telling too. He got a nice ovation from the crowd, but the story was being told on his face. He's probably realizing that it actually is time for me to retire. I'm glad I only have 5 appearances left because I can't compete with that. That guy just fucking murdered me in front of 15,000 people. I'm done. I'm washed. And so that's part of the story too. Brock Lesnar over John Cena. Next matchup was the Usos taking on Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed. LA Knight, of course, is the special referee for this. They set this up on the, 4-hour Stroke Yourself pre-show that they had on ESPN all damn day. So that was set up there. And the Usos' entrance, I swear to God, took 18 minutes. They came down from the crowd. Then they cut a promo. Then you started the music. Then you started the music again. Then they walked down the stairs. Then they got in the ring and they did the yeet thing. Then the music stopped. Then it started again. I went and made a sandwich. I went and got some gas. I rotated my tires. I came back. The Usos are still doing their entrance. Finally, Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed were allowed to come out, and they were wearing some Rick Steiner jackets with the spikes, the leather jackets, which I thought looked great. We knew that LA Knight would be a factor in this because he doesn't really like anybody right now. He's got, of course, lots of issues with the Vision, and he's got all sorts of dissension with Jay, but he kind of gets along with Jimmy, so we knew something was going to happen there. And what wound up happening near the end of the match was kind of interesting. You knew they were going to do some sort of a spot where LA Knight was going to either almost get hit or get hit by Jey Uso. So Jey Uso has got a chair. He comes in to hit Reed or Breaker or whatever. They get out of the way. He almost hits LA Knight, and he kind of stops, right? And so then something happens with LA Knight, and Jay is back. I don't even remember who he hit at this point. He hit Bron Breakker or Bronson Reed with the chair. And I believe what happened is that when he lifted up the chair to swing it, the little metal hinge on the side that unfolds the legs, I think when he lifted it up, it caught him in the forehead, and he just sliced his forehead. It either happened on the way up or the way down, one or the other. But I think it might have happened on the way up because he was already bleeding when that chair shot hit. So I think it cut him on the way up. And I didn't see that at first until they showed the replay. So Jay is just bleeding hard in the match. And I was like, where did that happen? And he's bleeding hard. You can hear him talking to LA Knight. I think Jay wants to get the hell out of there. I think he thinks that he just, gashed himself up pretty good and he wants to get to the back so he can get his stitches. So it felt like he was kind of calling for the finish here. And we get this really, really ugly double spear from Bron Breakker to both of the Usos through the fucking Slim Jim table that was laid up in the ring mat up against the turnbuckles there. And it looked terrible. And they ended up pulling a very, very bloody Jey Uso off of the table, bringing him right in the ring. And this was so perfect. It was just one of these happy accidents. Bronson Reed, first of all, comes off with a brutal tsunami to Jey Uso. And when he lands on the bloody Jey, that was enough to trigger the broken table, which is still kind of leaning in the corner to topple over and land on Jimmy. So we get the tsunami and the 3 count as the table is falling on top of his brother, and Jey gets pinned. Very, very bloody Jey Uso, and Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed expectedly wins this match. Didn't really think that was going to go any other way. I thought maybe LA Knight would play a little bit more of a role than he did, but I think the story here is that hesitation from Jey with the chair and that distraction was ultimately what cost him the match. So he'll probably still have some sort of a problem with LA Knight come TV. Up next was the vacant women's championship on the line. Stephanie Vaquer versus Io Sky. Now, in the past few weeks, I've been pitching this grand idea. Here's what you do. You have Io Sky win the title back and beat Stephanie Vaquer, and now she's champion. Now you go into Crown Jewel in Perth in Australia, and you finally have Rhea Ripley get that victory over Io Sky. She can now beat Io Sky finally, and she's now the new women's champion. Now you have Stephanie Vaquer go on a run. You have Stephanie win the Royal Rumble or the Elimination Chamber, and you have Stephanie go into WrestleMania to challenge Rhea Ripley for the championship and beat her. That was my big grand plan. Let's put Stephanie over at WrestleMania, which is why I didn't think they would do it here. But the more I got thinking about it, where they're doing all that stuff with Io Sky and the Kabukis on TV, and there's something going on there, and if my scenario was going to happen, that means Io Sky would win the championship and then immediately drop it to Rhea Ripley at Crown Jewel. But that can't happen now since they announced that the Crown Jewel championships would be defended, which means it's going to be a champion versus champion deal. So where would that leave Rhea Ripley? So it feels pretty obvious now that, Io Sky wouldn't win the championship here. And she didn't. It was a great match. Easily the best match of the night here. Love this match between Stephanie and Io Sky. And Stephanie Vaquer was able to put Io Sky down and win. And she was overwhelmed with joy. Sorry, I don't have a lot of the spots written down here. I was just kind of enjoying the match with you guys. Wins the championship, and you could see the emotion on her face. She had who I believe to be her father out there at ringside, who shared a big hug, and he held up the championship. And, when I saw that, I was okay with it. Maybe I would wait and have Stephanie have her moment at a bigger show, but this was fine. The circumstances beyond their control. I don't think they would have taken the belt off of Naomi yet anyway. She'd probably still be champion, so they took advantage of the pregnancy. And instead of giving Io Sky another run, they went ahead and belted up Stephanie Vaquer. And I think now, even though I didn't predict it, I'm happy that it happened. I was really, really happy for her. So glad that she's now a champion, and now she will face probably Tiffany Stratton, but Tiffany Stratton's got a title match on SmackDown in Triple Threat with Nia Jax and Jade Cargill. So assuming that Tiffany survives that and retains, it's going to be Stephanie and Tiffany for the green ugly championships at Crown Jewel, which means Rhea Ripley is not going to be in a championship match. So she's got to do something on the Australia show. What it's probably going to be now is what I said. It's just no championship on the line. It'll probably be Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky, one-on-one, and Ripley finally gets the win. Maybe that's what they're going to do. Just no title on the line. Or, maybe it's Ripley and Io Sky versus the Kabukis. It could be that. It actually could be that. So maybe they don't do Rhea and Io in Perth. They might just do a tag where they beat Asuka and Kairi. And then you just wait to do the Ripley victory over Io Sky. Eventually you're going to have to do it. Maybe you just wait a bit and do it next year or something, or do it at Mania for the other championship if somebody moves over to SmackDown. Who knows? So I guess that's what they'll do with Ripley. Wouldn't you agree that it would probably have to be one or the other in Australia? Because the Australian crowd, I assume they all love Rhea Ripley, right? They deserve to see her. They deserve to see her there in some sort of a big match, some sort of a big moment. So I think it either has to be Ripley versus Io Sky one-on-one, or Ripley and Io team up to face the Kabukis. And maybe, Io's over, though. It's like, maybe you turn Io heel. If you do Ripley and Io versus the Kabukis, maybe Io turns at Crown Jewel and joins the Kabukis. I don't know. Maybe not. But it's got to be one of those two matches. I like the idea of Liv Morgan coming back and maybe even teaming with Rhea Ripley, especially if Dom Dom winds up dumping her for Roxanne or for somebody else, because Dom's a stud. Yeah, we'll have to see. But I hope that the Perth crowd and the fans there get a Rhea Ripley match. Unless they don't care about her, but I would like to think that they do. Oh, the 90s guys sitting here, this Aussie subscriber for many years. I didn't mean F Australia, for real. I do love your country. And by the way, YBS Youngbloods, one of my favorite YouTube channels. Australian guy. He's basically like Steve Irwin, and he's just always out in the water, spear fishing, diving, touching the most deadly, poisonous animals with his dog and his cats. He's a trip. So YBS Youngblood, shout out to Australia and the absolutely beautiful, lovely coastline you guys have there. Did not mean to offend 90s guy. I just meant in terms of John Cena. From John Cena's perspective, there hasn't been a lot of John Cena history in Australia. So when I said F Australia, that's what I meant. Not F your country, though. I think your accent is cool. I think your women are hot. And your beer could use some work, but other than that, mad respect for Australia. Please stay a subscriber, 90s guy. Yeah, Rhea has to beat Io in Perth. Yeah, that could be the match. But man, there's so much shit going on with the Kabukis right now. With Asuka getting in Io's face every week, I feel like it might just be like a feel good tag match or something. Just have Ripley and Io go over. But one-on-one would be more fun, like just some banger in Perth between Ripley and Io Sky, and then Ripley finally gets that monkey off her back and beats Io Sky. I'd be fine with that. After Stephanie's big championship victory, congrats to Stephanie Vaquer, it is time for the mixed tag. Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch taking on CM Punk and AJ Lee. Seth and Becky came down in this unbelievably obnoxious entrance. They're up on this huge platform that's raised up by like two pillars, and it just lowers them. It doesn't look like they're tied down to anything, so they're just standing up there. They're both wearing these big purple matching robes, and they come down to Seth's music, and then it transitions into Becky's music. Punk and AJ then come out. We start with Punk, and then it transitions into AJ's, and CM Punk is wearing kind of like an old school 90s starter jacket that says AJ's husband on it, and so they make their big entrance. And, in terms of what we got out of this match, it was really exactly what I thought. It didn't really exceed my expectations. It met them. I figured, based on what we know about these four and what they can do in the ring and what kind of match they would have, it wasn't going to be anything super crazy. I think it was more about the story here than anything that we were going to see athletically in the ring. And we got a couple of good spots. I love the deal on the outside with the two tables when they kind of went with dueling pedigrees into dueling GTSs, and then Becky, I think it was AJ Lee, got thrown into Punk and Rollins, and they did this crazy table bump, and it was just so wonderful. And the finish was what we thought it would be. I didn't think it would be Rollins taking the loss here. I thought it would be Becky. So Becky wound up tapping out to the Black Widow after a couple of close tap-out attempts. It wasn't the first time she was locked in that Black Widow. Even AJ Lee locked the Black Widow on Rollins. And there was one point where I think they had Punk had Rollins in the sharpshooter, AJ had Becky in the Black Widow, and they had to get out of that. And the dynamic between the couples I thought was fun. They teased some physicality a couple of times. As a matter of fact, CM Punk put Becky Lynch in the sharpshooter when she put him in one. She actually put CM Punk. Punk let Becky Lynch put him in the sharpshooter, and he sold for it before he reversed it. We also had Rollins putting his hands on AJ Lee, which pissed off CM Punk, and he came in and hit Seth Rollins with a stomp. I think AJ was going for some sort of move on Becky, and Rollins grabbed a hold of AJ's Lee, and she went down, and that immediately triggered Punk to get up and hit Seth Rollins with a stomp, and Punk would get hit with a stomp as well. So everybody got their shit in. We had GTSs, we had stomps, we had manhandle slams, we had Black Widows, but in the end, after the table stuff on the outside, when Rollins is taken care of, because him and Punk just went through the table, AJ Lee gets to isolate Becky in the middle of the ring, lock in the Black Widow, and Becky Lynch has no choice but to tap out. And the camera shows CM Punk still laying on the ground in the broken table going, "That's my wife." And it was a really, really fun little celebration between AJ Lee and CM Punk. But that was exactly the outcome you knew you were going to get. First official match for AJ Lee in over 10 years in the WWE. Plus, when we saw how the segment went on Monday, it's just pretty typical stuff there. The heels kind of went over. They stood tall there. There's no way that AJ Lee is going to come back and lose her first match back. And this might mean that she won't beat Becky Lynch for the Intercontinental Championship. Becky might wind up winning that title defense when it actually happens, since AJ won here. But I do believe that Punk will eventually beat Seth Rollins for the championship. I think that's how you got to end this. It's been such a long rivalry between the two. At some point, that's got to be the match you do, Punk winning the championship from Seth Rollins. Just a matter of how long do you wait to do that. You wait too long, Rollins could get injured again, or so could Punk. So do you wait until WrestleMania, or is that something that you do maybe at Crown Jewel? Oh, wait, it can't be Crown Jewel because Rollins is going to be taking on Cody. And you can't do it at War Games either, because it's probably going to be the Vision versus a bunch of baby faces. So the earliest you can probably get that done might be the Royal Rumble. You know, and you might do it on Saturday night's main event on the same night Cena retires, but I think maybe Royal Rumble could be it, or Punk's got to win the Rumble. You know? So if he wins the Rumble, he could then challenge, or the Chamber, one or the other. But then carrying that into WrestleMania, would you think that would be a bit long? Or do you do it sooner? Or do you give Punk a short run? Maybe he wins the championship finally from Seth at the Royal Rumble, but then he drops it to somebody. We still need to get Cody and Punk at some point too. So just depends on when you're going to wrap it up with these two. You know what I mean? So AJ Lee and CM Punk victorious over Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. Then came one of my favorite parts of the whole show, honestly. First thing that happens is the lights go off and we hear dong. And the first thing I do during the watch along is roll my eyes. Oh my God, Undertaker. And to make matters worse, he doesn't even come out to his theme. He comes out to Kid Rock, who I hate. But I will give American Badass a pass because my favorite Metallica song is Sad But True. So I can barely tolerate it. And I mean barely. So I'm not real happy. I don't know what the Undertaker is doing out here. We don't need him out here. He's out on his little motorbike. I have to listen to Kid Rock. Shoot me, right? But he drives this little motorbike all the way around ringside area, and we see Nick Khan. He's been ringside all night with his kid. And then Stephanie McMahon is also there at ringside, taking in the show. And he drives his little motorbike around, and he has a microphone in his hand. And he approaches Stephanie. He's like, "What's up, Stephanie?" And they're all chummy. And I have no idea what's going on here. And he's like, I see you got is that seat taken? You got an empty seat next to you. So I'm like, okay, Taker's just going to come out, bring out a legend for the ESPN thing, and he's going to sit next to Stephanie and watch the main event. I hope I'm this friendly with the women that I've stalked and kidnapped and crucified and pile driven. Boy, they're chummy. All the history between Undertaker and Stephanie. The kidnappings, the stalking, the crucifixions. And now they're hanging out like they're BFFs. So I just thought Undertaker was going to come out there and hang out with Stephanie and take in the main event together. One legend to another. But then he's on the microphone, and I forgot how he brings it up or what his delivery is here. But he basically tells Stephanie that he's out here to tell her and inform her that she is the first inductee into the 2026 WWE Hall of Fame next year in Las Vegas. I was not expecting that. First of all, it's September. We didn't get our first inductee last year until like February, so we're way earlier than we would expect to start getting Hall of Fame announcements, you know? But to be honest, as someone who lived through the Attitude Era in his mid-20s, who went to shows, who saw Stephanie live and in person, and saw every single thing that character ever did, I cannot think of a better or more fitting WWE character to go into the Hall of Fame. Might surprise you to hear me say that, but no, Stephanie is tremendous. Her wrestling character was so good. And I like how they put this together because it was really heartwarming. It was wholesome. You know, I'm not a big Undertaker fan at all. I would never align with him personally or politically, and he'd be the most insufferable person to ever sit and have a fucking beer with. But this was so sweet because it was the history between the two of them, and of course, how Triple H went into the Hall of Fame last year with Stephanie McMahon orchestrating this surprise without Triple H knowing, and she brings in The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels to come out and surprise Triple H and induct him to the Hall of Fame, or announce that he's going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. And then I feel like Triple H felt obligated to pay The Undertaker back for that, and they forced Michelle McCool into the Hall of Fame, which I have no interest. I never cared about Michelle McCool's career at all. I don't remember anything that she did. I don't really believe that she's Hall of Fame worthy. I feel like they just did it to repay that surprise back. This is way better. This is a true like repayment of that, I think, that that Stephanie got to be the one to be fooled, since she was the one that orchestrated the whole thing the first time with Triple H. So I really, really like that. And Undertaker being the one to deliver the news to her. And then you could tell this was not like a work. She did not, legitimately did not know this was happening. You could see the emotion in her face. You know, she was legitimately surprised. There's even when Undertaker was talking to her, she was kind of had this like suspicious look, like, what are you doing? But once he announced what he was there to do, she seemed like really kind of blown away by it. So this is not a Hall of Fame induction that I feel like is undeserved or undeserving or too early. Somebody in the chat was like, well, what about Shane McMahon? What about Shane McMahon? Who gives a shit? One day Shane will get in, but it seems like sometimes when Hall of Fame inductions are announced, the first thing some people's brains do is think about somebody else. Fuck them. We'll talk about them another year. Shane McMahon will have his day up there too. WWE waits forever on some people. But in terms of Stephanie, looking at Stephanie's alone in a vacuum by itself, she's more than worthy. That character back in the day was so amazing. And it really kicked in when she turned heel. She was boring as all hell for the first few months when she was just a babyface in 1999. But when you got to that Armageddon pay-per-view where she turned on Vince and she shared that hug and kiss with Triple H, and the very next week out on TV, she had a whole different attitude to her. She had this arrogance and this bitchiness to her. She just was such an asshole. And she had that annoying, screeching voice. And she was so believable in that spoiled brat type of character that she was. All of the shit she did with her family was bonkers. All the stuff she did with Vince and Linda and the slapping and the complaining about her rough childhood when she was born on third base and still acted like she had it rough. All of that stuff was tremendous. It was such a good character. She was so great at being crazy, at being angry. You would not want to cross her. And she always played her role 100% every time she went out there. Even some of her matches were entertaining, and she wasn't really known for her in-ring work, but she had some very memorable matches, one of which was against her own father. Even as recent as 7 years ago, or when was that Ronda Rousey mixed tag? 2018, WrestleMania 34. I honestly believe that was the best match on the whole show. Was Stephanie and Triple H versus Angle and Rousey. I thought that was the best match on the whole show. So Stephanie has had memorable in-ring moments as well, and nothing really to me outshines that character. It's all about that character. Her personality, during those years, specifically during the Attitude Era, was just second to none. She was always down to be humiliated. She did not care, much like Vince. Vince was like that, to his credit. He enjoyed being humiliated out there, and Stephanie did as well, no matter how many times she was called a slut or a hoe or a trash bag hoe, or Jericho put up the before and after boob job pictures of her. Like, no matter what they did, she's been covered in slop and shit and piss and crap and liquid multiple times before. She's had her clothes torn off. Like, she's always down to be completely humiliated if that's what the storyline calls for. And I've always been a big advocate of Stephanie as a character because she was just really, really good, naturally good, tailor-made for pro wrestling. She fit in there, a lot like Sunny did and like Smoky Mountain. She was just, and when she first came into WWE as a manager, it's like, man, this girl's young and she's good. She is comfortable out there on the microphone. She can throw a temper tantrum with the best of them. And then Stephanie came along and arguably, I think, did it better. So she definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I'm very, very happy about that. And she is only the second McMahon now to go into the Hall of Fame, as I believe Vince Sr. went in, I think, in like the first year or the first couple of years. I know Andre went in 93, and then maybe Vince Sr. went in 94. I don't remember exactly where Vince Sr. went in or what year. You guys can tell me, but he's in. So Stephanie is really only the second McMahon. You can't really count Triple H. He's not blood. He's a Levesque. He's not a McMahon. So Stephanie will be the second, beating in her father and her brother into the Hall of Fame. I love that. I absolutely love that. Shane, for as good as Stephanie's character, her pro wrestling character was, Shane was equally as good as being crazy. Stephanie had that over-the-top character. Shane was like, what can I fall off of? What can I fall off of? You got a car battery and some jumper cables? Hook them up to my testicles. Gladly, please. And stand in water while you're doing it. Or put me in water. Put me in a pool of water. And then light up my testes. No problem. I don't care. I was at SummerSlam 2000 when he fall off the thing. It was crazy to see. So he'll get his day in there. I hope Vince never sees the WWE Hall of Fame. I hope Vince gets disgraced. And I hope all the grisly details about his disgusting, perverted fucking life comes out in that civil suit. I think he's going to settle and get out of having all of that released to the public, but you never know. There's still hope. But in terms of a McMahon going into the Hall of Fame, I have absolutely zero fucking complaints about Stephanie going into the Hall of Fame. Absolutely deserved. Congratulations, Stephanie McMahon. And that left us with our main event, Cody Rhodes defending the WWE Championship against Drew McIntyre. And we weren't sure how they were going to book yet another Drew title loss here. I was thinking way outside the box that they could have some interference here. Maybe The Rock could come out. Maybe Randy Orton can come out and turn heel, which might still happen. And they would do something to maybe do some sort of surprise title switch here, or maybe something that would be enough to set up a rematch at Crown Jewel in Perth. But we learned tonight, like we've already talked about, that apparently they're going to do the Crown Jewel championships at Crown Jewel. So we know that there's not going to be championships on the line for the world titles. It's going to be champion versus champion. So you're not going to do a Drew McIntyre versus Cody Rhodes rematch here. So it was probably going to be a Cody victory, because a Cody loss wouldn't have made sense here. Match was okay. It was exactly what I thought a Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes match would be. Exactly. Much like the mixed tag was, and much like Cena and Brock, the only match, like I said, that exceeded my expectation for it was Io Sky and Stephanie Vaquer. So this one was right in line as well. And my big question going into this match was, how are they going to book Drew losing? There's going to have to be something. And we mentioned in the predictions on Thursday that the finish is probably going to be centered around the Claymore through the table spot, since that's what Cody got knocked out with to begin with, so he could go off and film Street Fighter and have another kid. That was probably going to play into the finish. We thought we might see a Randy Orton return here, or if WWE wanted to, or a Randy Orton run-in, or if WWE wanted to really throw a big surprise at us for ESPN's first PLE. You could do something nuts like have Skinny Rock come out, or have Brock Lesnar reappear and come attack these guys, or who knows. But we didn't see any of that. All we saw was Drew setting up Cody on the outside of the ring, getting ready to Claymore him through the table. The same move that put him out of action. Referee cock blocks Drew, gets in his way. So Drew can't do it. He's arguing. Finally, the referee moves the referee out of the way, goes for the Claymore. Cody now moves, and McIntyre claymores his legs through the announce table. He sells him. His leg is injured. He crawls back into the ring, and he sets himself up in the corner to hit Cody with the Claymore. But as he goes for it, his injured legs buckle. He goes down. Cody capitalizes, hits him with the Crossroads for the win, and retains the championship. And that's how they did it. It was the referee pretty much causing the hesitation there, allowing Cody just enough time to move out of the way of the Claymore. And then Drew injures his legs. That played into the finish. His legs buckled. And there you go. Crossroads for the win. Cody Rhodes still your WWE champion. Not much of a surprise there. We figured he would retain, and he did. And now it looks like it's going to be Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins. We're finally going to get that rematch, and that's going to be happening in just 3 weeks' time. 3 weeks from today, I believe, right? Crown Jewel in Perth, October 11th is when that match is going to go down. Rollins versus Cody, and I absolutely believe that Seth Rollins should win that match. He's got a lot of help. He's got a lot of vision out there, and I think that's what they should do, because I've been preaching that. I said, whenever Cody and Seth find themselves back in the ring again, it's got to be Seth who gets the win, and that's what I believe will happen. So that is pretty much your Wrestlepalooza in a nutshell. Really thought that the show was, I guess, solid. First ever show on ESPN. I hope WWE delivered what they were attempting to deliver here. But it was just like a solid show, good show, nothing super spectacular. Nothing really happened, and like I said, the biggest surprise and my favorite part of the whole show, or my two favorite parts of the whole show, was the two Stephanies. Stephanie Vaquer winning the championship and Stephanie McMahon being inducted in the Hall of Fame. Those were the highlights of Wrestlepalooza for me. So let me know what y'all's highlights are in the chat there. And now we can move on to AEW All Out. Did you guys get a chance to watch that today too? Many of you did. Some of you were relying maybe just on this review to find out what happened. But a lot of you I spoke to earlier on the chat and on social media, looks like you guys all ordered the pay-per-view and got a chance to see it. All right, let me find my All Out results. So this card had a grand total of 14 matches on the card. Now, they had 4 of them on the Tailgate Brawl. I only knew about 3 of them, so I predicted 13 out of the 14 matches here for All Out on Thursday. Of the 13 matches I predicted, I got 8 correct and 5 wrong, and that is bad. It's real bad. So Greg did not have a good outing this prediction Saturday. But real quick, in the Tailgate Brawl, the Ops defeated the Workhorsemen. Daniel Garcia defeated Shibata. Roddy Strong, Hologram, and Kyle O'Reilly, they defeated the Frat House. That was the match I didn't know about. And Harley Cameron, Willow Nightingale, Mina Shirakawa, and Queen Aminata defeated Megan Bayne, Penelope Ford, Julia Hart, and Sky Blue. So all 3 of the Tailgate Brawl matches that I predicted, I did predict correctly. I did like the little bit of a different look there with Daniel Garcia. Looks like he's kind of got like the mohawk hair and he's wearing shorts when he's wrestling now. I kind of like, that was a nice change up. I thought that looked good on him. So that is one thing to note there. On the main card, of course, it was announced earlier in the week that the pay-per-view would open with Cope and Christian versus FTR. And this was a fun match. I actually really enjoyed this. This was a solid opener. I think it was a really smart move to put this match on first, because if this would have gone on semi-main, I don't know if it would have been as good. And I was worried that the match in the ring might be a little slow and shitty, but it wasn't that bad. I got to give props to FTR and Old Man Christian and Old Man Copeland. Good job, CNC. The CNC Wrestling Factory did well this evening. And I think my favorite part of the match was the 5-knuckle shuffle by Copeland. Of course, in John Cena's last match, he was playing all the tributes to all of his rivals, and he definitely did the Edge spear, which idiot Michael Cole called a Roman Reigns spear, but it was clearly a tribute to Edge, and Edge got him back here, gave him his little receipt here, performing a 5-knuckle shuffle, which probably had to get approved from Tony Khan, and he's probably like, yeah, fuck it, do it. Got the 5-knuckle shuffle, was able to pay tribute to his friend, and we got a John Cena chant here at All Out, and I didn't hate that at all. That's what's great about wrestling. I wish everybody wasn't so tribal because I like it when, the worlds and the universes bleed into each other a little bit. It's cool to see that always. And it reminds me of 97, WrestleMania 13. Shawn, right after losing his smile, making his entrance at WrestleMania 13, flashes the click sign into the camera. Next night on Nitro, Kevin Nash, during the NWO's entrance, puts the symbol right in the camera and goes right back at you, HBK. And seeing Cope give that nod back to Cena, be still my heart. Also, double sharpshooters was fun to see. We almost had a double tap out there on FTR. But one of the things I mentioned in my predictions happened. Remember at Clash in Paris when I had this wonderful idea for Rusev and Sheamus and the Donnybrook? I'm like, this is where you bring back Lana. You have Lana come back. Help Rusev beat Sheamus. We didn't see Lana. But I'm obsessed with wives helping their husbands for some reason, so I predicted it again. And on Thursday, I said this would be a perfect time for Beth Phoenix to show up in the company if she's contractually obligated or contractually free. I don't even know. But I could totally see a scenario where Stokely is being a nuisance and she comes out there and stops him. And that's exactly what happened. Stokely pulls the referee out of the ring during a 3 count, I believe. And then we get some music playing. And I knew as soon as the announcers were like, huh, who is this? I'm like, it's Beth. It's Beth. And then we see the name flash on the screen. They're only calling her Beth. So she has no last name yet. I think she should be Beth Scottsdale. I think that would be a perfect name for her. Or maybe Beth Sedona might work. Might also work. But Beth Scottsdale, I think, has a nice ring to it. So Beth comes out. She takes out Stokely, of course. But that was almost not enough. When she came out there and took out Stokely, Copeland ended up getting hit with a spike pile driver in the ring, and I thought they were going to lose. But he kicks out of that. Then they pick him up and hit him with a shatter machine. So after Beth comes out, Cope gets hit with a spike pile driver and a shatter machine and kicks out of both. Finally, in the end, it was a spear to Cash Wheeler as Christian pulls Dax away from being able to break up the pin, and Cope pins Cash for the win. And Cope and Christian stand tall there with wife Beth, and Cope tries to go and give that hug to the reluctant Christian when Mother Wayne and Nick Wayne in a wheelchair, because he's got the broken foot, show up on the entrance ramp, and they are then attacked. Kip Sabian comes in the ring and handcuffs Copeland to the bottom rope, and FTR gets a hold of, after they attack and take everybody out, they get a hold of Beth Phoenix and hit Beth with a spike pile driver right in front of her husband, who can't do anything about it because he's handcuffed. And Beth took a very, very big bump there. And it was kind of a cool setup too, because when Mama and Nick Wayne came out there, FTR attacked, and then Sabian handcuffed Cope. So Beth is in the ring, and Beth is kind of like cornered there by FTR, and she just looks, and Copeland is telling Beth to get out of the ring, and instead she just kisses him and says, I love you, and she just starts swinging on FTR. And then, of course, they overwhelm her and hit her with the spike pile driver. But I really enjoyed the fact that she basically kissed her husband goodbye, because I'm about to fight these two assholes and probably get my ass kicked, which she did. And poor Copeland had to watch his wife take a spike pile driver. That had to be painful. Match number 2 of the night was the returning Eddie Kingston taking on Big Bill. I don't know. Eddie's back. I've missed Eddie. Eddie is obscenely over. Fans love him. Some fans felt like it would have been better to have him show up as a surprise. I was okay with them pre-announcing the match because of how over Eddie Kingston is, and he's so overwhelmingly over that if Tony Khan believed that pre-advertising this might give fans extra reason to tune in or maybe sell a couple of more pay-per-view buys, I can understand that mentality. Especially if the match turned out to be great and it was some big triumphant return. But I think a surprise might have been better, to be honest. And I talked about in the predictions, like what kind of Eddie Kingston are we going to see? Is he going to be a little tighter, a little crisper? He's been off for 16 months. It's not like Eddie has ever been a body guy. He's not going to come back jacked or anything, but is he going to come back a little leaner, a little quicker with all this time off, to maybe get himself, physically ready? How's he going to look? And is he going to do his, lame little backhand slaps like that? And that was actually the first thing he did once the bell rang. And, it was your typical Eddie Kingston match. He seemed fine in there, physically, but, nothing seemed too different about him. He looked the same, worked the same, and the match was just good at best and not even really that good. He came out with a Claudio Sucks Eggs shirt, which I did like, and the finish was pretty shitty. He hit Big Bill with really terrible backhand that completely whiffed. Even the announcers, they acknowledged that he missed, and then he still covered him for the victory. So I think Eddie and Big Bill, or even Tony Khan, if he's at Gorilla, put word into the referee, hey, redo that. Because you didn't have to, it wasn't even like having to reshoot a spot. All you had to do was redo it because the announcers had already sold it as a miss. I don't think he connected there, so all Eddie had to do was regroup and just re-deliver the backhand and just make it land a little bit better. That's all. That was such an easy fix, and they fumbled. That's a lack of experience from a veteran in Eddie Kingston. It's not like Big Bill's brand new either, so I feel like both guys should have known enough to say, let's redo that one more time. Or just do it again. Just recall that, and Eddie can get up. Obviously, Eddie doesn't know that the announcers sold it as a miss, but I still think the spot should have been redone. So he simply pins Big Bill after completely whiffing on a backhand. I don't think Big Bill was the best opponent for Eddie Kingston. I just don't. I think somebody else should have been calling him out on Collision. Maybe somebody smaller, somebody who can bump around or sell his chops or whatnot. It's such a weird, kind of a clunky, wonky type of match to do for Kingston's return. You want to return after we haven't seen someone for almost a year and a half. You want that to be, a showcase, some big victory where they look good in there. And he didn't really look that good. Now, Eddie Kingston, again, he's never been one that's been super athletic, and he's been body shamed to death. I don't believe you need to be ripped and jacked to be a pro wrestler. You don't want everybody looking the same. You need a few Mick Foleys out there. I've always been an advocate for that. But, sometimes I wonder, I don't like to judge. It's just like you're off for a year and a half. Fucking treadmills are $200, man. Just get one, get a tan or something. I don't know. Just try to look cosmetically better out there, especially when you're in the ring with someone like Big Bill. It just didn't. It just was a mismatch, and it's not a believable victory for Eddie Kingston to be able to beat up, an absolute monster like Big Bill. I think he should have, number one, found a better opponent for Eddie, or number two, just had Eddie come out as a surprise somewhere. Somebody's getting beaten down, and that great Eddie Kingston theme music hits, and he comes stumbling his crazy ass out there with a gas can and a lighter. Oh, my God. Give me that and inject it into my veins. This, not so much. So right after the match, by the way, there's a post-match attack because Brian Keith is out there. Brian Keith just won a championship yesterday, right? I think the DeFi title somewhere. So he attacks. There's a post-match attack on Eddie Kingston, and then we get the big Hook symbol in the rafters, and the music plays, and Hook kind of comes out to not much of a response from the audience. The Hook symbol, the bat symbol, if you will, didn't get much of a reaction at all from the crowd. And then when he came out to his music, he got a really, really mild entrance. Of course, he's using new music now, and I think a lot of fans are struggling to warm up to this one. That last one, that Action Bronson theme, I thought was perfect. It sucks that things didn't work out there and they've lost the rights to that song, because I thought that really fit Hook well. But at this point, I'd rather have him come out to Hook by Blues Traveler. I think that would be a much better song for Hook at this point. So Hook comes out to make the save. He celebrates with Eddie. Crowd was, only sort of into it. And I think after 16 months off, I think Tony Khan could have figured out a better way to have an Eddie Kingston return, make it more impactful, because I just don't think this really landed, In a match that I'm so bummed out about. Remember in the predictions when I predicted Mark Briscoe to beat MJF, and then I changed my mind because I knew he had a match coming up with Mystico, and he's probably going to lose that, and I didn't see him dropping 2 in a row? I didn't even know when the Mystico match was going to happen. It happened last night in a tremendous match. CMLL had their big 92nd anniversary show or whatever, and Mystico faced MJF in a brutal, bloody war. That was just a tremendous match. Rave reviews across the board. And here MJF is last night in Mexico, right? Where were they? I think they were in Mexico, right? And he then has to travel all the way to Indianapolis to have a match, 12 hours later or something like that? Less than that? Maybe slightly more than that? But a half a day later, he's doing it all again. It's crazy. And he definitely looked tired. He kind of had like a pale look on his face, and he had to go in there in, of all things, a tables and tacks match against an absolute madman in Mark Briscoe. So props to MJF for the work that he's been doing over the past 24 hours here. And I had a feeling that Briscoe could win this because he is the one that made the stipulation. But at the same time, MJF, he's MJF. So I thought he was going to win here, especially after losing last night. But the very first thing Mark Briscoe does is take buckets of thumbtacks and just dump them before the match even starts, covers the entire ring in an inch-thick layer of thumbtacks for these guys to wrestle on. So we got thumbtacks all in the ring, and now it's just a matter of just getting slammed on them and getting all your shit in. MJF was first to get his shit in on Briscoe. Briscoe gets slammed almost immediately on the tacks, and MJF starts taking his head and rubbing his face in the tacks. He's bleeding all over the place right out of the gate. We've got a crimson mask on our hands. Mark gets Alabama slammed on the tacks as well, and then MJF drags him through them. Just brutal. Of course, no match like this would be complete for the sickos without opening up the mouth, dumping the tacks in the mouth, and then punching your opponent in the face, which is what MJF did to Mark Briscoe. Finally, it's Max's turn to take some punishment. He takes a tack bump, backdrop, and a spine buster back-to-back on the tacks, so that was no fun, I'm sure. Mark Briscoe hits a froggy bow through the table onto the tacks, then another one into the ring on the tacks, and then he picks him up for what they were talking about, and he vowed, and that was one thing that I had in my head during the predictions, is that, Briscoe has been vowing to hit the J Driller on MJF ever since MJF invoked Jay's name on TV, and that seems to be an obsession with Briscoe. So I should have known not to pick MJF in this scenario. And of course, Mark gets MJF up in the J Driller, nails him with it for the win. So 2 back-to-back losses within a very short span, just a matter of hours for MJF there, and a big win for Mark Briscoe. That was all kinds of fun. Later on, backstage, he's hanging out with the conglomerate. There's a big interview segment there with Renee Paquette during the whole thing. O'Reilly is on the phone, and Mark Briscoe, I forgot, who did he challenge? Did I even write that down? Oh, yeah, Mark Briscoe, he winds up challenging the Callis family for a match on Dynamite. And O'Reilly, who is on the phone, apparently he's on the phone with the person that they want to be their partner. And O'Reilly gets off the phone, and Briscoe says, "Hey, what'd he say?" And O'Reilly says, he said, "Whatever." And the fans popped. So it sounds like Orange Cassidy will be coming back. That's tremendous. He's been out for a while, too, and it looks like we're going to see him back in the ring on Wednesday night's Dynamite. That's kind of fun. We cut backstage to some weird parking lot segment with Jerry Lynn and the Acclaimed. He's trying to bring them back together, and he announced to them that he has secured a tag team match for them next week, and I believe that's going to be on Dynamite as well. Both guys refuse and argue. It seems like they're reluctant at this point, but the Acclaimed might be making their way back to each other here at some point once this whole thing gets seen through. In another match, I got wrong. Hurt Syndicate taking on Ricochet and the Gates of Agony, now known as the Demand. Now, I had said in the predictions, again, this is another one of those matches where I wasn't sure. I was like, I can see Ricochet and Gates of Agony getting the win here because they would benefit a lot more from the win. And when we heard all of that stuff about the Hurt Syndicate not wanting to drop the tag team titles and whatnot, and MVP mentioning teams like the Gates of Agony that they would like to do jobs to, also MVP, who doesn't wrestle full-time anymore and is the older member of the group, or the least physically capable member of the group. He's more of a manager these days than a wrestler. He even walks around with a fucking cane. He's in the ring. He's the one that should eat the pin in a situation like this. But we have also heard rumors about the Hurt Syndicate potentially adding new members. So I wasn't sure here. Go with the Demand winning or having the Hurt Syndicate get some help from maybe an outside guy. I ended up picking the Hurt Syndicate. I was wrong. It turned out to be the Demand, and sure enough, like we speculated was the possibility, it was MVP eating the pin. Lashley and Shelton Benjamin get taken out. On the outside of the ring, MVP is isolated in the ring, and we get a spirit gun to MVP for the win, and a big win for that trio now known as The Demand. And I like that win. That was the right booking decision. Even though I predicted it wrong, that was the right call. Ricochet and these guys and Gates, they've got way more to gain, from a victory here. So I was fine with that. So that was kind of a surprise between the Briscoe and MJF. I guess you would call it an upset. And this upset, 2 matches I got wrong. It was then time for Mercedes Money, to defend her TBS championship against a recently returned Riho. Both ladies here got their entrances, right? And I often sing the praises of AEW. I try not to be overly critical of them. I cannot stand the Anger Boys on social media and online and stuff. They're horrible. But, I got to be honest here. I'm very disappointed in AEW. Mercedes Moné had her entrance, and they had a bunch of shirtless boys out there wearing all of the championships that she's won. AEW never fucking called me to be a belt boy for Mercedes. I'm offended, and quite frankly, this might be a reason for me to not order any more pay-per-views. You would think if you were going to gather up a handful of shirtless, sexy boys to wear Mercedes Moné's championship belts during her entrance, I would be your first call. Nobody. Not one text, not one message from Tony Khan. Nobody from AEW's production department or anything like that called me up. What the fuck? Don't you think that's silly? I mean, if WWE ever needs somebody to come out like that, they'll be sure to ring me up. They just haven't been put in that situation yet, but I know they would call me 100%. But the fact that AEW didn't think of me first is infuriating. It's why they're a mud show. They're just a mud show. There's 15 people in the crowd tonight. 15 people were there in Toronto. And Tony Khan was backstage just doing lines all night. That's it. So it was Tony Khan doing lines. We had 46 matches, a 7-hour show in front of 15 people. Fucking mud show. Next time you need a sexy boy to be shirtless and wear a championship belt, call me. You know how good I look in oil? God. It's this company's never going to learn. How are they ever going to expect to compete with WWE if they can't even make the simplest decisions? It's bullshit. Anyway, we had a match too. Mercedes Moné defending her TBS championship against Riho. I didn't really watch this match because I was pissed that they didn't call me. So I didn't care. But I'm kidding. It was actually a pretty decent match between the two. I really enjoyed Riho doing the dance because she looked exactly like I look when I do it, which is not good. I look good, in oil, but I don't look good dancing. So she did it not great either. And I could relate to Riho because her and I have got similar rhythm. But in the end, it was kind of a trio, a series of moves here. It was an eye gouge. What did Riho have on Mercedes? I feel like she had her in submission or some shit like that. But anyway, behind the referee's back, we get an eye gouge. Then we get a lung blower, which is just a tremendous move. And that transitioned into the moneymaker for the win. And Mercedes Moné retains. Not a big surprise there. One of the easiest matches to predict. Everybody loves Riho. They put her over huge as the first AEW Women's Champion and whatnot, and a very, very credible challenger to Mercedes. But when Mercedes drops that TBS championship, it's just not going to be to Riho. But it's great to see Riho back. Good little match there, and I enjoyed it. In what I think, and you guys let me know. Let me know what your favorite match of All Out is. I'd like to know that. Because one thing that I didn't get a good look at was the main event because we were watching both. So I have to go back and watch Fletcher and Hangman. So Fletcher and Hangman might turn out to be my favorite match of the card once I get a better look at it. But right now, the Unified Championship is my favorite match. This was kind of a throwaway match for me. I didn't like the way it was set up. I didn't like the way Okada had to essentially qualify for his own title defense. I thought that was all weird. But I do, and I'm really intrigued by the impending rivalry between Kazuchika Okada and Konosuke Takeshita. Those two guys are great. Can't wait for this one-on-one match to happen, but did not want to see any sort of a title change here because I want to see Takeshita take the belt from Okada in a one-on-one. I also thought for sure Beast Mortos would beat Dorada, but he didn't. So it was Takeshita versus Okada versus Mascara Dorada. And Dorada was tremendous in this match. This was so fun. He was the most fun to watch, to be honest. So I stand corrected. I'm glad he won in that qualifier instead of Beast Mortos. But I think my favorite spot maybe was the absolutely perfectly executed double Hurricane Rana to Okada and Takeshita off the top rope. Probably my favorite spot of the match. But when Dorada and Mortos had that match to qualify, that was essentially a match to qualify to see who was going to take the pin. Because you're not going to pin Takeshita, you're not going to pin Okada. That's going to be your one-on-one match for that championship at some point, probably at Wrestle Dream. So Dorada had to take the pin here, which he did. Takeshita got knocked out. Okada was able to isolate Dorada in the ring, hit him with the Rainmaker, and successfully defended the unified title. I really liked this match. It was super fun. Really enjoyed it. And right now, I'll get a better idea after I watch Hangman and Fletcher again. But since I didn't get a good look at it, I think this might have been my favorite match on the whole show. And it wasn't a match that I thought would be my favorite going into it. One of my favorite matches I thought would be the Coffin match. And this match wasn't bad. Trust me, it was fun. It was a match for the sickos. I very much enjoyed the Coffin match, but it was pretty much in line with what I would expect from a Darby Allin Coffin match. Hi, Tito. Say hi to Tito, everybody who's here hanging out with us. So the Coffin match starts off super gnarly. First thing Darby does is Tyson and Holyfield Moxley's ear, just bites his ear. And he's immediately just covered in blood on the entire side of his body. So Moxley gets his ear bitten off by Darby. He's just bleeding, buckets of blood throughout the whole match. Later on, Darby pulls off the top turnbuckle pad to reveal a hidden fork. So the forks are back. So he gets the fork out and he just starts stabbing Moxley's already bloody, earless head with a fork. So right off the bat, within the first 10 minutes, we have got blood everywhere. And as this brawl continues, they completely destroy the Coffin very, very early. They're bumping on it. The Coffin's a mess. I wasn't even sure. They have two Coffins out there? I forgot. But anyway, the Coffins are just shot to shit. And they get the one back in the ring eventually, and the entire lid is just broken off that. So they're not going to be able to close it and seal it. So I was wondering how they were going to execute that finish if you can't completely close the Coffin. But usually in Coffin matches, these things get all banged up anyway. And I was also curious about what Danielson whispered to Darby on Dynamite during the sit-down. And in the predictions on Thursday, we mentioned that he could be telling him to do the plastic bag thing, which is exactly what happened. Danielson told Darby that he would stay out of the match if Darby did something for him. And so as Darby is on the outside of the ring near the announce table, Danielson, without really getting involved, just casually shoves a duffel bag in Darby Allin's direction. Darby Allin then unzips it, opens it up to reveal the plastic bag. So we're going to get an attempted murder here. Fans knew it. Darby gets in the ring, puts the bag over Moxley's head, and we get a "This is murder" chant from the audience. This is murder. 2 attempted murders tonight, and they're both from the same guy. Darby and both of them. So Darby puts the bag over Moxley's head. We get a "This is murder" chant, and that's when Darby Allin is attacked from behind by a returning Pac, a returning short-haired Pac. I almost thought it was Austin Aries for a second when he showed up. Pac's been out of action for a long time. We've been wondering when we're going to see him again. I'm glad the long hair is gone. He looks good like that, doesn't he? I like the short-haired look on him. And he takes out Darby Allin and basically picks him up because there's a Coffin on the outside of the ring as well, I believe, right? And he basically, I don't know if it's a power bomb or a razor's edge or what, but he picks up Darby Allin and literally throws him back first over the top rope to the floor on top of the Coffin, which just destroyed it. He then zipped up Darby Allin in a body bag, shoves him in the coffin, and closes the lid. And Moxley, in a surprise, beats Darby Allin in the coffin match. And I was kind of shocked by that. The Pac return was a good way to have Moxley go over, but this is a coffin match. This is Darby's signature. I couldn't see him losing here, even with outside interference, but he did. So I kind of was a little bit disappointed in that until later. Until later on, couple of matches later, near the end of the show, we cut backstage again where Moxley is, I don't know, he's got the coffin back there. Darby is still in it. Darby then resurrects from the coffin. Same thing happened to Jesus. As we remember, Jesus lost the coffin match. And then he resurrected 3 days later. Darby outdoes Jesus. And instead of resurrecting 3 days later, he's back like less than 3 hours later. He resurrects from the coffin, attacks Jon Moxley, puts Jon Moxley in the body bag that he himself was laying in, and then sets it on fire. Sets it on fire. Sets it on fire. Sweet. So he tried to suffocate Moxley, then burn him alive. That is what family entertainment is all about. You got some little ones, take them to the show. Because how often do you get to see 2 murders in the same night? It's rare, 2 attempted murders, I should say, in the same night. So take the kiddies, why don't you? So Darby got the last laugh there. Plus, losing in a coffin match, it's not like he submitted or got pinned. Darby will still go on to probably win this feud with Jon Moxley. They'll probably do one more stip match that'll probably be the gnarliest thing we've ever seen. And Darby Allin will win finally in that one. Is probably what will wind up happening. But the Death Riders, here we thought the faction and the entire kind of story would start winding down and dissipating by now. They've added Daniel Garcia, and now Pac is back. When's the next Blood and Guts? That's probably not until next year, right? So the Death Riders are loaded up with a lot of members there, and they just keep on rolling. All right, after that was another surprising outcome. Man, just the incorrect predictions just keep on coming for Morgan here as I get another one wrong. And we had a big upset in the AEW Women's Championship match. It was Toni Storm defending against Chris Statlander, Tekla, and Jamie Hayter. And it turned out to be Statlander getting the win out of nowhere. She rolls up Toni Storm in the seat belt, right? Pins her down, 1, 2, 3. Surprise victory. Not the way I thought that would go. I did think this show needed a title change on it just because it's all out. You needed to have one in there somewhere, which is why I predicted the Young Bucks to win the ladder match. But I had the right idea. It was just the wrong championship. If we're going to get a random title switch, it's not the Bucks. It's going to be Statlander who wins. And that's great for her. This is her first run with the AEW title, I believe, right? She's been TBS champion. She beat Jade Cargill for that title and then beat her again. But she hasn't really had a run with the World Championship here. And this is great. I hope this turns out to be a successful run. Statlander has kind of been there from the beginning. She's been in AEW ever since she was from the Andromeda Galaxy. And then she got hurt. I love the way she came back and she popped out of that video game. And then she got hurt again, and then didn't see much from her. But then things picked back up again with that tremendous Willow Nightingale feud and match. And now to see her win the championship, I'm happy for her. Tony Khan loves Statlander. The fans love Statlander. She's a big powerhouse and she's a babe. So winning the championship here, I have no problem with. I think I'm just surprised. I'm surprised the way it happened. It was a shock. Did not see that one coming. It's not that I wasn't seeing a potential future title run for Statlander coming, of course. She's world championship material, 100%. Just didn't really see it happening here and was surprised that it did. But we have a brand new AEW Women's Champion, Chris Statlander, in a big upset winning the title. And hey, I got no complaints. No complaints about that at all. I thought it was awesome. Good for her. I'm happy for her, man. So Statlander is your new champion. And now Toni Storm is not. So what does that mean for Toni? What does she do? Is she going to go back after this championship? Or maybe she's they're pulling her away from the title right now just because, maybe she's going to take a little bit of time off. I hope not. Maybe Tony targets the TBS championship or something. Don't really know. I hope we see more of Tony, though, on TV, and she's not off for a while. She didn't lose the title for a reason. I hope it's more about putting over Statlander than it is for any reason with Toni Storm, because she's the best. But it's impossible to, not be happy for Kris Statlander. I just think that her winning is great, and I'm very, very happy for her, even though it did surprise the hell out of me. All right, after that was the ladder match, I believe, right? Wait a minute. Yeah, the ladder match. Yeah, the ladder match. Cool. So it's Brodito taking on the Young Bucks, taking on Jet Speed, taking on Josh Alexander and Hechicero. So this was the match before the main event, and we are about 15 minutes away from going live for the Wrestlepalooza watch-along. So during this match, I was mostly setting up the stream. Didn't really see a lot of stuff. The only spot that I noticed was the big Brody King pile driver. Who did he pile drive? Was it one of the Bucks? Pile drove. Oh, no, I think it was Mike Bailey. I think it was Speedball. And he pile drove, I believe was Speedball, off the ring through the ladder that was bridged on the outside of the ring. But when they landed through the ladder broke and then kind of sprung back up. So it wasn't a wooden ladder. It wasn't a metal ladder. I guess it was fiberglass or something. But the way the ladder kind of came back together after it broke was pretty wild. I got a huge kick out of that. But in the end, it was Brodito gaining both championships and retaining. But like I said, I was way too focused on getting ready for the watch along. We were about to go live for Wrestlepalooza. And so I'm getting ready for the watch along. I leave the room. I come right back a few minutes later and I see Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, and Luchasaurus Kill Switch in the ring. I did not see how they came out, why they came out, or what prompted them to come out. They came out right after the ladder match. I don't know if they came out and attacked the Bucks. I have no idea what happened there. All I saw was that. So can somebody in the chat there fill me in? Did they just kind of come out and surprise the fans? I think we got that same Kill Switch video of him waking up, right? But they brought Tarzan Boy back. Fans were doing this. Big hug between, I'm assuming he's Luchasaurus. So is Jack Perry and Kill Switch back to being Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus? Are they back together? Because that's a good use of both of them. Put them back together as a tag team. Phone up Marco Stunt. Get the band back together. What's that little guy up to these days? So, maybe you can get the whole band back together just for nostalgia. But it was cool to see them in the ring together and reunite. Unfortunately, I just didn't know how or why they were in the ring or how they got out there. But they are back together and the fans really seemed to enjoy it. Will somebody else besides Brian Powers comment in the chat here? But yes, Brian, I wasn't switching back and forth. I had both on. I had Wrestlepalooza here, and I had the main event of All Out over here. Speaking of the main event of All Out, that brings us to our main event. Hangman Adam Page defending the AEW World Championship against current TNT champion Kyle Fletcher. Like I said a couple of weeks ago when this match was made, it reminds me of Survivor Series 1992, Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels had just beaten Davey Boy for the IC. Now he's going in the ring in his first big main event match against a world champion, and I felt like the match was similar and the outcome would be very similar. It would be a great match. Shawn gave Bret a run for his money, but ultimately Bret proved that Shawn's not quite on his level yet, but probably would be one day. And that's exactly the vibes here I got from this match. This was a fun match from what I could tell. Again, we had Brock Lesnar and John Cena on here, so when I when I start breaking down all this stuff tonight, all these chores I have to do, I'm going to rewatch Hangman and Fletcher and try to get a better idea of it. It looked to be a pretty good match. We saw all the crazy spots, the buck shots through the dead eyes through tables, and they were working well together. Fletcher is a stud. I love the way he not only works, but I love the way he sells. I love the way he takes punishment. I love the way he absolutely just mangles his body out there. He's tremendous. He's a lot of fun to watch. And the match looked good. But unfortunately, because we had 2 matches going on at once, plus I had a chat and a stream to monitor, I wasn't exactly writing down all the highlights here. In the end, it was a buckshot lariat for the win. One thing I am going to check briefly, though, just hang tight. I want to pull up the match time on that because I have no idea how long the match was. It looked to be about a 25 to 30-minute match, but I'm going to see if... Where's the time on that? Oh, I'm sorry. It was a 40-minute match. Okay, because it was long. I was thinking it was a 30-minute match. It was a 38 and 10-second long match. Holy shit. Yeah, buckshot lariat there for the win. Hangman Page survives Kyle Fletcher and what appeared to be a very, very good all-out pay-per-view. Like I said, it was worth my $40, but both shows tonight, if I had one overall opinion of both, is that they really did almost equally match my expectations. I got exactly what I thought I would out of All Out. And I got exactly what I thought I would out of Wrestlepalooza. Both shows were solid. I'm not going to give either show an A. I'm going to give Wrestlepalooza a C+, and I'm going to give All Out a B+. That's what I'm personally grading the shows. B+, A+. Or I'm sorry, B+, C+. But I don't think neither show was an A. And of course, All Out, just judging it from a pure non-tribal wrestling fan's perspective, we got 14 matches at All Out. And many of them were good. We got 5 matches on Wrestlepalooza packed with commercials, and packed with, basic matches. Cody and Drew was about as basic as you can get. The mixed tag gave us everything we thought. We didn't see anything crazy or anything like that. Like I said, the only big surprise was Stephanie McMahon going into the Hall of Fame. And I think the best match on Wrestlepalooza was Stephanie Vaquer and Io Sky. So of the 2 shows, what was the best match? Probably Hangman and Fletcher. Of the 2 shows, I'm going to go Hangman Fletcher number 1, Io Vaquer number 2, Okada Takeshita Dorada number 3. Maybe. I think that's how I might rank my top 3. Probably, yeah. That's probably how I'd rank my top 3. But yeah, I'll... And you know what? Honorable mention to Cope and Christian and FTR. That match, I should say that. I should actually say that. Cope and Christian and FTR exceeded my expectations. I was worried the match would suck. It didn't. And we got the Beth Phoenix surprise as well. So I should honorable mention to Cope and Christian and FTR. I did not think that match was going to dazzle me, and it was better than I thought. And of course, I loved the John Cena tribute by Copeland during that. So yeah, that's kind of my overall final thoughts there on the 2 shows. Fun Saturday, man. Not a bad Saturday if you're a wrestling fan. Well, not a bad Saturday if you're a wrestling fan who has nothing to do. I took tonight off from work because it was going to be a long day. I had to watch 7 hours. 7 hours of wrestling. Watched from noon to 7 p.m. straight through. 7 straight hours of wrestling watching, followed by, a 2-hour review, a podcast here? So that's 9 hours of wrestling and then talking about wrestling. I don't think I could do that every week. But occasionally, when we do have these counter-programming shows, by the way, shout out to the fella at AEW All Out with the counter-program D's Nuts sign. Loved that. So whenever you are going to have these counter-programming days, I think that's pretty awesome. Now, one thing to note is Tony Khan does have a special announcement on Dynamite this coming Wednesday. His announcement could be absolutely nothing, or his announcement could be, in 2027, I'm going to run a huge fucking show opposite WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia. Or maybe he's announcing something else. I don't know what his big announcement is. Sometimes his announcements can be legitimately big, and then other times there can be like, Why are you promoting that like it's a big announcement? Who cares? So we'll see if it's a who cares or a not who cares. Also, something in the business world to keep an eye on. It looks like Warner Brothers Discovery is headed for an acquisition, and one of the suitors is Netflix. Looks like, from the little tiny bit that I have read, and it's not a lot, because I don't like that side of the world. I don't care about mergers and shit like that. Don't give a fuck. But if they affect wrestling, then sometimes I pay attention. And Netflix buying Warner Brothers Discovery, I don't know how that's going to fare for AEW if that happened, but it sounds like Paramount is more likely of a suitor than Netflix is. So if it turns out to be, if Paramount merges with WBD, I don't know how all that's going to shake out either, or how it would affect the future of AEW. I have no idea. I don't know about any of that, but it's a story to keep your eye on, because before AEW's next media rights deal comes up, that could be a whole different company, and that could be very concerning, or maybe not. Depends. Just depends. So keep your eye on that, and once we learn more about that or get any more details, we'll cover it eventually on the podcast. So yeah, I'm going to go to the chat here, see if I missed any super chats from earlier. I don't think I did. I did miss that one from Mike. Mike, thanks for the $5 earlier. I purposely skipped the first because I have not cared about Brock since the early 2000s. Same match every time, 57 suplex and 75 F5s. Yawn. Yep, that's pretty much Brock these days. But man, Brock, he just looked tremendous, didn't he? My God. I could not believe the shape that dude was in. All right, and I think I hit all of the other super chats. Yep, okay, I'm not seeing any more that I missed. So I think we are good. We're good to go. All right, just double checking. All right, guys, I think that's going to be it. So anyway, one more time, I just want to say thank you to everyone for a half a decade, 5 great years that I've had in this house live streaming with this humongous background I have behind me. But on Tuesday, I move. We are downsizing, getting out of this house. So this is the final stream with this behind me. We are going to be here. For those who weren't here earlier and didn't know, we are going to be here tomorrow night to watch ECW Wrestlepalooza 1998, our final classic watch-along in this house. But tomorrow, all the stuff behind me is going to be taken down because I'm probably going to start packing it up tonight. So you got one more day, unless I get really lazy tonight and I decide to leave it up one more day, but I'm cutting it close. Movers come on Tuesday morning, so I got to pack up and get my shit ready here. So I just want to thank you for 5 fun years in this place. Prior to that, I was in my old apartment where I was streaming with the kitchen behind me. The new place, I've got a really fun little YouTube corner planned. It's going to be really nicely decorated, and it's going to look really good, and I'm really looking forward to the change because all of this is just way too much space. I don't need it, and I just thank all of you for your support over the years. It's been great. After tomorrow night's watch along, I am going to be taking a week off from YouTube because not only am I moving, but I have to clean this place up and get it ready to pass back to my landlord. Plus Elizabeth is starting a new job. We got a lot going on around here. So I'm probably going to take the full week off, which means no podcast, no nothing next week, but I'll put up some shorts. I'll keep you guys updated on what's going on. And if I have time, if I feel like near the end of the week, we can do a podcast, we'll come up and do one. But I'm not even sure if I'm going to be completely set up yet with everything in the transition from here to over there. Plus, I got a little kitty to transition. Tito's got a brand new house coming up, and he might be a little bit freaked out. So I got some shit to do. But one more time tomorrow night, we will be here. So please join us, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, for ECW Wrestlepalooza 1998 as we close the book on this current YouTube chapter here. Right on. I think that's it, guys. I think that is it. Just double checking. No supers that I missed. We are good. Yes, Rajah Jackson in jail finally, or arrested anyway. I think he was released on bail or bond, but at least there was an arrest made there. It's about time. Maybe we'll come up here for a little mini video or something. I wouldn't put it past me to give you guys something this week, so don't completely tune out. There might be something up on the channel for you guys to watch. Have a great rest of your Saturday night. Thank you so much for those of you who have been with us all day, watching all this stuff and following what we do. I appreciate it, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your Saturday evening. And I'll catch you tomorrow night for one final live stream in this place. Y'all have a good one. Peace.